Alrighty. Thank you for inviting me to speak, and it's great to be here. I'm hoping to share with all of you our plans at IIHS to help accelerate commercial motor vehicle safety. So we're known for our activities within passenger vehicles, whether we're crashing them, whether we're looking at how well they do at avoiding crashes, or just other kind of countermeasures of dealing with crashes involving light vehicles. But we're starting to move into medium and heavy-duty vehicle space. For those of you who don't know, this is our mission statement. Basically, we want to find ways to stop crashes on the road and the harm that comes from them. We're best known for evaluating vehicles and vehicle safety, but we also are, through our research, we want to educate consumers, educate policymakers, as well as other stakeholders so they can be empowered to make safe choices and launch countermeasures that are effective. We do this in 4 different principal ways. We do our crash tests, but we also do more traditional research, and this research with field operational tests, or perhaps even getting volunteers to come in and drive vehicles that have different technologies, or just crash data research. And then I'm frankly fortunate that we have a phenomenal communication team. We have a media studio within our vehicle research center that we can take research and other types of media content and pipe it directly to media outlets that they can put onto networks. So our communication group does a good job of getting the message out there, so research to action, and that has been phenomenal to work with. But one of the things that's gained a little bit more noticeability, I've noticed, let's say noticed twice, is our new strategic plan. So we started this in 2025, and it's called 30 by 30. Everyone has heard about Vision Zero. If you look at fatal crashes in the U.S., we've been on the uptrend. We saw that with commercial motor vehicles in the earlier presentation. Overall, it's about the same. So we thought, well, we want to get to zero, but we first need to turn the tide around, right? We need to start going back down. So the whole goal of this mission is to basically reduce fatal crash deaths by 30% by the year 2030. And we have different pillars within this strategic plan that we're going to work toward, as well as collaborate with stakeholders to try and knock down, reverse the increasing trend in fatal crash deaths. Those pillars are safety for everyone, okay? And this really focuses on vulnerable road users like pedestrians and bicyclists, but also variations in occupants of vehicles. Older occupants, younger occupants, making sure that everyone is able to realize those safety benefits that we see. The second has to do with addressing risky driving behavior. So this is your classic belt use, impairment, both from alcohol as well as drugs, distraction, and then speeding. These are things that are stubborn, right? We've been working on ways of addressing those, but that's another pillar. And the final pillar is commercial motor vehicle safety. So this was our first foray into, we've done commercial motor vehicle research, but we're really making it a principal core component of this strategic vision. And that's what I want to talk about today, is what we've been up to, where we see ourselves going. None of this is in stone, okay? So this is very much a sandbox, ideas, some of the things we have started on, so I can say with more certainty about what we're doing. But this is where we're looking to solicit feedback from folks. Either, hey, y'all are crazy, or you know what, that's a great idea, we want to collaborate with you, all the gamut, okay? So one of the things that we've done for initiating this part of our strategic plan is we've just gone out there and met with folks. So the whole plan began back in October last year. Today we've met with 35 different unique stakeholders that represent different parts of the commercial motor vehicle space. And so you have fleet managers, you have manufacturer suppliers, you have insurers, which is our primary, insurance companies are the ones who fund our work, as well as we haven't met with drivers yet or any of the people who are actually operating the vehicles. But we've listened to them. We didn't have any kind of structured way of going about these interviews, and when I say we, it's me talking to these folks along with some of my colleagues. But we just wanted to hear them out, pitch some ideas to them about what we think we can provide, whether or not they would find it useful in the decisions that they make, and then hear what their pain points are. And so what I want to do is share some of those pain points that we heard across the different stakeholders, and then offer different ways that we feel that we can support making a safety case, okay? So basically information that we can provide that we will be producing that can help folks make that business case for safety. So one of the pain points has to do with the lack of a regulatory mandate. And there's a number of different regulations that are with light vehicles that don't transfer over to medium and heavy-duty vehicles. But a real kind of more recent example has to do with automatic emergency braking. You have Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard 127 for light vehicles, and there was a companion piece that was for vehicles of over 10,000 pounds. The AEB requirement for vehicles and pedestrians, it actually made it through for light vehicles, but when we look at medium and heavy-duty vehicles, it's still stalled. We don't think it's actually going to go through, but you have basically differences in regulations between light vehicles, which are more heavily regulated with regards to the equipment on the vehicle when it comes down to occupant protection as well as technology, as compared to the medium and heavy-duty vehicles. So things like airbags, side airbags, as well as frontal airbags, the different restraint use technologies, crash testing, rollovers. These are areas where we know how we can address occupant safety, and maybe there's some way we can incentivize or at least acknowledge or recognize those folks who transfer those successes in light vehicles up to medium and heavy-duty vehicles. The second has to do with looking at medium-duty vehicles. There's essentially a dearth of safety features. And it's like a chicken and egg problem from what we understand. And that is, this is a very low volume segment. And so there's not really the demand for things like automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning, these ADAS, advanced driver assistance system solutions. And if the other component of it is, well, if I put ADAS on my vehicle, right, on my medium duty vehicle, but it's incomplete, I've got to do some upfitting to it, how do I know it's still going to work? Right, so there's this concern that if I have an OEM installed equipment, sensors, other types of stuff on my medium duty vehicle or larger, and then I go put a big container on it, or maybe I put a front loader on it, or I do something else with it with upfitter, so you have multi-stage manufacturing and it's finally complete, how do I know that that sensor system's still working? There is no kind of standardized way that the companies or the upfitters can go out and assess whether or not the performance of these systems is as it was when it came from the OEM. But that's something that we do. We develop test protocol. We test these types of systems. It's something that we're kind of well suited to work with groups and developing some sort of basic way of verifying performance of advanced safety systems. Another concern that we saw in these conversations has to do with just field experience, right? So I've decided to make the plunge. I've got vehicles with advanced driver assistance systems on there. But one of my concerns is that if I have all these new sensors on the vehicle, yeah, it may reduce the likelihood of running into things or the frequency of crashes, but not all of a sudden I have a truck that's down a lot more. It's in the service, in the shop, right? Those sensors are not very good out in the field, so now I've lost a lot of service time. So yeah, I've prevented crashes, but maybe overall the actual cost of ownership doesn't make sense. So that's one of the concerns that we saw, and so there's very much a ROI, cost of ownership component to this, that it's important to get more information to the people making the decisions so that they can to convince them that safety, yes, there's some potential for complications or new concerns, but that the end game is that safety wins out. So with that, those concerns, I want to talk about how we think at IIHS, at least the current thought, is that we can provide or help support a business case for safety for groups that are looking, managing different types of fleets of different size vehicles, as well as regulating those fleets, as well as other kind of stakeholders involved in the space. So the main thing is that we feel that we are able to kind of go about our normal model from light vehicles and apply it to medium heavy-duty vehicles. And what we can offer is basically providing the rationale, whether that is looking at crash data to say, hey, here's the potential for some sort of safety solution to address crashes. And not only from here's the hope, but here's the realization. So working with companies, they're doing our own research to be able to say, this is what the actual effect is of that technology in the field. Another thing that we're looking at is ways we can say, hey, here's the crash problem, but look, there's these manufacturers and suppliers that have certain solutions to it, and we can highlight, yes, we all know that this is an issue, but check it out. We can recognize those folks who have addressed it, and not necessarily go out and buy a Volvo truck, but just offer kind of industry support or garner industry support to increase demand for these solutions offered as standard in a vehicle. The second has to do with evaluation, and that's our bread and butter, where we are able to basically take a vehicle and evaluate advanced safety systems in it in controlled environments, so through test track, in a test track setting. And then finally, I'm hoping, who here knows about IIHS top safety pick? Okay, good. It's better. Typically, it's nobody. But everybody should. When you go out buy a new car, one of the things you can do is go onto our website and look at the ratings for a vehicle with regards to its crash-worthiness as well as its crash-avoidance technologies. We bundle up all these ratings into an award called Top Safety Pick. The idea is the same, is we can somehow award manufacturers, suppliers, or even fleets with some sort of brand of recognition that they can proudly demonstrate or advertise. That will give incentive to the industry to adopt safety measures, as well as when you see your peer have something like that, then you maybe yourself want to go do it. Or you can use that to garner new business, right? So with that being said, I want to provide examples of the type of these different initiatives or things we can do, or that we do right now, but apply to commercial vehicles. And so one of the things, we do analyses where we look at the relevance of different safety technologies, in this case to fatal crashes. And this is broken out by light, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles. And what you can see, first off, seatbelt use is a problem for everyone. Right? So making sure that folks are buckled up in the event of a crash so that you reduce the likelihood of fatality or fatal injury, and that's regardless of the size of your vehicle. Another thing here for when you look at automatic emergency braking, and that technology is designed to prevent rear-end striking crashes. It's going to automatically apply the brakes, hopefully reduce the severity, if not avoid the crash altogether. And that's something when we talk about heavy-duty vehicles, it's still an issue. It's a big issue. It's nearly 15% of fatal crashes where that truck is striking some of the vehicle. So this type of data is a way to kind of scope in what countermeasures hold the greatest potential. But we also have done things, and we do things where we're combining them. What's this set of basic technologies, what does it offer in terms of the potential crash reduction? We look at automatic emergency braking, lane departure warning and prevention, blind spot, and then intelligent speed assist, which is addressing that risky driving behavior of speeding. And we're talking about over a 1/4% of police-reported crashes for large trucks, and about a third of those with a fatality. And so these 4 technologies hold a lot of promise, right? Not just one individual one, but kind of like a safety net. And we've done work to try and understand whether or not technologies like AEB are actually effective. So we know there's the potential, but are they actually preventing crashes? With light vehicles, we've done a lot of work, and we see and this is both using insurance data as well as police crash report data, but we've consistently seen for different classes of light vehicles, reductions of about 50% in terms of the involvement in rear-end crashes. We had we took data from Smart Drive at the time, I think Samsara now, basically video recordings and telematics data from about over 60 companies and their drivers, and looked at their involvement and rear-end crashes for trucks fit with forward collision warning or automatic emergency braking and those without. And we saw a similar reduction. So over 40% reduction in rear-end crash involvement rate for those trucks that had AB. But what was different was just the warning itself held a lot of safety value. So you see, in fact, it's above that, but about the same reduction in the rate of rear-end crashes for those trucks that had forward collision warning. So, what's very comforting about this is that the technology works across all vehicle types. And when it's not working, it's reducing the severity of crash because you see reductions in speed. When we're talking about automatic emergency braking, you're talking nearly 80% reduction in the speed, the impact speed in the crash, but also large reductions in speed for forward collision warning alone. So that's an important safety metric. Yeah, we all want to avoid crashes, but if we can reduce the severity of those crashes, then we're not having to go to tell someone, their family, that somebody died, right? Another thing that we can bring to the table is gathering all kind of success stories throughout the industry, right? This is something that appeared in a Special Transport Topics article recently, but these are real industry experiences with ADAS technology, right? So you have one from Boyle Transportation, the fact that they haven't had an issue since 2019, right? Or preventable crash since 2019 after deploying this. And then you have from Pitt, Ohio, rear end crashes were the most costly crash, but now they're the least source of cost for their business. So this is kind of, again, getting information out there, information that from different perspectives that one can use to say, hey, this is something that we should implement. But at IIHS, we crash light vehicles, we test light vehicles or smaller. That's not something we can do with a tractor trailer. We don't have the track space. I don't have a CDL, although maybe I'll go out here and sign up for a course. And we don't actually have CDL drivers on hand. So one of the thoughts that we have, in order to provide incentive to industry to adopt safety countermeasures, specifically those heavier trucks, is to spotlight them. All right, so like a safety spotlight. This is something that Euro NCAP had done with light vehicles in the past, of just acknowledging, hey, Honda's got this advanced system, check it out, motivate other manufacturers to follow suit. These are just two examples of safety issues, whether it has to do with rollover protection or increasing visibility, right? Which is important when you think about the communities and the safety of communities and the communities that we provide services for. Here are some countermeasures in there, whether it's Rolltech from IMI, or Scandia's got side airbags that it puts in, Volvo trucks as well. And then for visibility, we have camera monitoring systems, or basically camera mirrors instead of side mirrors, or in addition to. And then for Hyundai Translate, their Link View system, which is another kind of thing to point out. Aurora was talking about how basically they can see everything all the time, right? Well, a Link View system has that surround view monitor, so you're driving down the road and you basically have a theft system or a burglar system or some sort of monitoring system that if a crash occurs, you've got video. And that's been a secondary benefit of such a system that it was not designed for, but it definitely benefits the safety case. But moving from those heavy trucks on one end, we're going to go somewhere else, okay? And this is actually what we're doing right now. We're focusing on cargo vans. So if we think about we're light vehicle kind of focused, what's the easiest next step? Well, just jump up a little bit to cargo vans, which are still they're still light vehicles, but they're bigger. It's our nice kind of toe in the water step into transitioning to commercial motor vehicles. This is kind of the safety case for why such technologies like AEB, lane departure warning, blind spot, and intelligent speed assist make sense for these vehicles. But we're going to go further, and we're actually going to test and evaluate such technologies. We're in the process. We've acquired 5 of 6 of these cargo vans right now. We're waiting on getting a Rivian Delivery 500. But they're common cargo vans that you see with contractors or delivery, last mile delivery. And they all actually come with different types of advanced driver assistance systems. We want to evaluate the performance of these. We want to be able to provide information to companies that have these within their fleet or are looking to procure them. Hey, this technology works better in this specific variant than the other ones that you can buy, as well as generate some sort of competition among the manufacturers so that they improve the performance of the technology. And so what exactly are we planning on doing? Well, we have an incredibly broad portfolio of tests that we run, and I'm the person who says, well, why don't we do it all? Why don't we just do everything we can? So we're definitely going to be evaluating advanced features like automatic emergency braking with different partners, okay? So that includes your vulnerable road users like pedestrians. We have right now are developing bicycle automatic emergency braking test protocol. I'm not sure if it's going to be ready in time to do it with the cargo vans, but that is something that we're looking to look at as well. But also for vehicles, with the passenger vehicle, but also a motorcycle in the rear end of a tractor trailer. So trying to see how robust the technology is at preventing rear end crashes. And then for one of the vans, it actually is able to do rear automatic braking when another vehicle crosses behind it as it's backing up. So we'll evaluate that and see how it performs. But in addition to evaluating and getting information about the performance of ADAS, we want to look at other safety relevant attributes. So things like headlight performance. How far do those headlights allow the driver to see downfield and in curves? We also are going to measure direct visibility. So we have a protocol for measuring direct visibility from the driver's seat. I don't know if you can recall those images I saw or I showed of all those cargo vans, big old panel boxes, right? So everything behind it's going to be a bit of a blank area, but really we want to see what the driver can see forward as well as sideways. We've been able to link that visibility to pedestrian crash risk when the vehicle's turning left, and we're currently doing work to see what are the kind of situations that visibility forward is linked to in terms of the risk of running into a vulnerable road user. We're also going to look at the seatbelt reminder systems, right? Unbelted occupants is a problem spot for medium and heavy duty vehicles as well as light duty vehicles. We want to make sure that those reminders motivate folks, specifically the driver, to use the seatbelt. And then intelligent speed assist. So we don't have a protocol for evaluating this right now. That's under development. But we're definitely going to do a descriptive type of evaluation where we note whether or not it's there and what type of feedback it's providing, and whether or not it's providing any kind of active intervention to keep the driver at speed. One of the vans, the brand ProMaster that we're testing, actually has an option to have a governor in addition to its intelligent speed assist. And then finally, we're not going to crash these vehicles, although I'm definitely put a petition in to do so internally. But one of the things we can make sure is that they come with countermeasures that we know are effective for protecting the driver and other occupants if they're there. Things like front airbags, side airbags, pre-tensioners for the restraint system, as well as load limiters. It's not, all these vans come with this stuff, right? Because they are under 10,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating. But we want to kind of provide a model that we can apply to other vehicles as we move forward. We're going to do and get information about all these different things. What makes the final cut as to what is important or not, we're not clear yet. We're still in this kind of really exploratory mode. But at some point, we'll have all the ratings. We're going to use our good, acceptable, marginal, poor scale to kind of differentiate performance. And then we'll come up with some sort of label, some sort of award, some sort of banner of recognition. Truck safety pick that's not what it is, okay? That's just a work or a placeholder. But what is important here is that we definitely feel it's important to recognize vehicles that have overall great performance in terms of safety or have all these safety features that do well, and those specifically that the use case is in urban environments where it is city safe. So it has those features that make it safer in operation at lower speeds or in places where you have pedestrians and bicyclists as well. So what that looks like, we haven't come up with the final decision yet, but that is a differentiation that's important for cargo vans specifically, or these kind of commercial vehicles that are used in urban centers. And then with regards to kind of this, just to show another example of, well, what kind of information can we provide to convince folks things work? We work with Volpe right now to look at intelligent speed assist. And New York recently deployed ISA in a number of its vehicles, and it works. It reduces the amount of speeding among those vehicles, especially extreme speeding, and that's what we've seen. And what I find particularly useful, I mean, you can talk about these technologies, and yes, they work as they're supposed to, right? They address the crash problems that they're designed to address. But to me, these kind of secondary effects are the real winners, right? They're the things that I don't necessarily think about, maybe others do, but the things to me that make the case more robust, more holistic, right? I'm speeding less, so that means that my CVSA score, my CSA score improves because I'm not getting cited as often, right? I'm also involved in less crashes because, as Aurora was just talking about, right? I'm going slower, it gives me more time to react to the situations around me. Another thing, which kind of is counterintuitive, but it's something we push IIHS anyway, there's actually time savings involved, but it's not because I'm not going fast. It has to do with coaching, right? If you're not speeding, you're not getting cited, you're not having kind of infractions, then I as a company have to do less coaching. So it's saving me administrative costs, right? So that's kind of the main things. We are doing other activities to generate kind of information for people that people can use. We're focusing in on cargo vans first. We have insurance loss data that we can use to say, hey, cargo vans, this is the current penetration of technologies in this segment. We have one-pagers that we are developing to kind of that people can use to say, hey, what is known about the real-world effectiveness of different advanced driver assistance systems for cargo vans? And in some cases, we've basically taken what we learned about with light vehicles and said, this is about what you can expect, or it's a good thing. We have illustrations that we will provide about things like direct visibility or the test results, the technical details. Well, how much more speed was scrubbed off for a given technology in this vehicle versus another. And then finally, we're working with Virginia Tech Transportation Institute to develop a ROI calculator, as well, one that will help companies understand whether or not it's going to be a given technology is right for them. TechCelerate now does that already with heavy vehicles, but this is going to be specific for cargo vans since that's where we're starting. And then we'll move up, right? So the idea is we figure it all out with cargo vans. We figure out what the suite of tests that we need to perform or could perform, how to do it, how to package that information, what's most valuable to the industry, to the commercial motor vehicle space, and then we go to bigger vehicles, which present unique use cases, and maybe we have to tweak our model a little bit. But like I said, everything's kind of a sandbox at this point. We're trying to figure things out, but we are testing cargo vans right now. And we will start kind of coming out with results from those and more press releases, so stay tuned. If you are interested, we are definitely open to talking with anybody who has ideas about how we could partner with them to address fatal crashes and drive down fatalities in the U.S. 30% by 2030. So my contact information is here. I'm here the rest of the day as well. So thank you for your attention.
Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Kidd real quick? Okay.
So I'm a motor carrier.
Mm-hmm.
We've got all this stuff on our trucks, and most of the people that I know in legitimate companies are already got this stuff on their truck. So what's missing, I think, from your sandbox, and what I would encourage you to research is the litigation environment we're in right now. So even if they say, I don't care about this stuff, if you look at the outcomes of whether there's, first of all, whether they're sued or not, and then second of all, the outcomes in litigation of folks that have this technology versus those that don't, it'll be, you've got a good pitch, and you've got the secondary pitch, and if you want to seal the deal, I think that's what it is. And it's not just limited to Class 8 trucks. You know, it's a commercial vehicle, therefore they've got insurance requirements, therefore we're getting paid. Even if the accident is not your fault, you're getting sued unless you've got some of this stuff. And we can beat it a lot of the times by presenting this stuff before we even get started. But I would encourage you to research that.
I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's great you're getting more into the CMV world because IIHS has a lot of respect, and you know, everybody likes awards. So if they start recognizing the top safety picks, that could be a great incentive. Oops. So our next speaker is Tracy Stevens. He's Director of Safety with M&M Cartage Company. So we're going to hear from the carrier side of it, and you can come on up. I'm pulling up your presentation. I know what's up here because, yeah, down here, right here.
There you go.
Okay.
So good afternoon. Sorry if I'm too loud. I'm not a public speaker, so bear with me. I'll do my best. So as Ron has said, my name is Tracy Stevens. I'm the Director of Safety for M&M Cartage based out of Louisville, Kentucky. A little groundwork about me. I've been in the industry for over 33 years now, following in my father's footsteps, who drove for over 42 years. I drove 14 and a half years myself as a regional OTR driver, and I've been head of safety for 18 and a half years with M&M Cartage. I will have been with the company for 27 years come November. M&M Cartage Company Incorporated is based out of Louisville, Kentucky. We have approximately 300 trucks in operation right now. As you can see here, we do run CNG trucks. 115 of our day cabs are CNG trucks. We have 9 fully electric trucks. Approximately 10% of our trucks are sleeper trucks, and those guys run regional OTR. As of right now, we're averaging about 15 million miles annually. 75% of that is mostly urban areas with high traffic areas. So anybody that's in trucking in the industry knows that 80% of statistics state that 80% of all CMV crashes are not the fault of the CMV driver. And what we have to do is find ways to protect ourselves, because of that 80%, 50% of those accidents, we end up in some kind of lawsuit or litigation. So what can we do to help protect us from auto liability and false claims? So as you can see here, we've been involved in an accident. We had a driver, this is shortly after we went with dash cams. So pretty much my presentation today is going to be improving highway safety with technology. And we are incorporating some of the collision mitigation stuff, but there's a huge driver aspect to this, and that's what I'm going to focus on with this presentation. So we received, a little bit leading up to the video I'm getting ready to show you, we received a phone call from one of our drivers. He was headed back to the terminal about 1.5 miles away, and he called us and said, hey, we got a driver going westbound towards 65. He just ran through a traffic light and T-boned a four-wheeler. It's pretty severe. So I respond to all accidents if I can get there before the accident is cleaned up. I had my safety team start pulling video and trying to find out what truck actually ran through the light. So this truck here that you see, the first video you're going to see is our truck that's heading towards the terminal. And if you look over to the left of the video, as we're approaching the next intersection, you're going to see a white truck coming from the other direction. And if you see the SUV sitting in the left turn lane, they have pulled across in front of the stop line. Now, we are setting, our other driver stops at a red light. So when he called, he said, you know, this light's red. Our driver run through the intersection and T-boned the four-wheeler. The lady that was driving the car, her husband is a retired truck driver, and he ends up on the scene before me because they live in an apartment complex back behind, to the left of this intersection. He's on scene. By the time he gets to scene, he has, I'm sure everybody's heard of the Hammer. So he's on the phone with Daryl the Hammer Isaacs, or one of the representatives, and he's bad-mouthing truck drivers on the road that we operate on, specifically M&M Cartage trucks, because we're so prevalent. He talks about all the unsafe drivers and how somebody is going to end up getting killed, and this is the perfect example. Well, he's doing this in front of the police officer. So I arrive on scene. I now have video on me to show to the police officer exactly what was going on, and I showed her this video here. And what you probably could not see is when the SUV pulled past the stop line, it took the pressure off of the sensor in the pavement and caused the light to change. So let's see what happened from the view of our other truck. Now in this video here, if you look at the top left-hand corner, it will tell you that the speed limit, the annotation says that the speed limit in this area is 45 miles an hour. Our truck is running 37 miles an hour. The car that is coming over in front of us just started to come over in front of us at this time. You can see the SUV sitting in the left turn lane. As we approach the light, we have a green light. We don't have a red light. So I showed both of these videos to the police officer, and the police officer told me, she said, thank you for that. I can assure you that that is going to redirect the narrative of my report. The very next week, we received a letter of we received a letter from their insurance company putting us on notice that they were a claim filed against us. We shared these two videos with them. They turned around within 2 weeks and sent us a letter stating that they were accepting full liability for that accident. The following week, we received a letter from Isaacs and Isaacs that they were representing the other motorist in a civil suit. We shared these two videos with that attorney, and that would be the first week of May of 2021, and to this date, we've never heard nothing else back from those attorneys. So this is just one thing that we do with dash cameras. You know, the benefit of the dash cameras is to protect us, but there's another side. There's more benefits to these dash cameras. Everybody has already heard about artificial intelligence. People that know more about that has already explained it, so I'm not going to get into all of those details of how artificial intelligence works. But what I will tell you is what kind of information that gives us. So artificial intelligence, these cameras that we use, you have artificial intelligence and GPS that gives us alerts. These alerts could be inertia-based or they could be vision-based. The inertia alerts are going to be your hard braking, your hard turns, your hard accelerations, and high Gs, which could be potential collision, rough road, that kind of stuff. On the other side of it, it's going to tell us like drivers running a stop sign, running a traffic light, whether it was yellow or red, speeding, following distance, weaving in and out of traffic, making improper lane changes. So right here is a video of an unsafe following distance. When we look at these videos, they give us a lot of info, a lot of good data to go off of. So all these little blue squares that you see around these automobiles is going to tell you feet per second. Those blue squares have nothing to do with the alert because those vehicles are not directly in the line of travel for our truck. The one that is showing yellow at 0.9 seconds, that is the one that we're going to focus on. And as we play the video, you're going to see that our driver speeds up. That yellow box is going to turn red, and when it does, it means that we are less than 0.6 seconds behind the vehicle in front of us. Not good. So what do we do with all this information? We take all these alerts and we try to gather information so we know how to train our drivers, retrain, re-educate our drivers to make better decisions. So for following distance, as of right now, M&M Cartage is averaging 3.7 seconds following distance. So in this system here, that's saying that that is good. Our cohorts, or our safety event group, for people that are more familiar with FMCSA, our cohorts are currently at 3.7 seconds as well. So a following distance alert is generated when a driver is driving at a speed of 15 miles an hour or greater in a red zone for a consecutive period of 10 seconds or more. Risky tailgating refers to time spent in the red zone, while total tailgating refers to time spent in the red and yellow zones combined. So moderate alerts versus severe alerts. So if a driver is speeding over the posted speed limit and it's within a 5 mile an hour buffer that we as a company have set, then we're going to get moderate alerts and the drivers are going to get a reduced score. If they are driving more than 5 miles an hour over the posted speed limit, it's going to become a severe alert. So this system here, our drivers start out with 1,000 points a day. As they behave badly or drive badly, their points can go down, depending on if the alerts are moderate or severe. As of right now, our moderate alerts are 5.4 moderate alerts per 1,000 monitored minutes. Our cohorts are slightly higher, are better than us because they are 4.4 moderate alerts per 1,000 minutes monitored. The big difference with this for us is we have very strict parameters 5 miles an hour, I'm being told a 5 mile an hour buffer is pretty strict, that most companies do 10 to 15 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. Right now, we have 1.6 severe alerts per 1,000 monitored minutes, and our cohorts are 2.0 for severe alerts. We believe the fact that we have stricter parameters and we hold our drivers to a higher standard is a reason why we're 22% better than our cohorts at this point. So the fleet performance dashboard, when I log into the system, I get onto the fleet performance dashboard. This is currently, or this was last month of July, we had 7,891 total alerts, 1,824 driver stars, 1,503 were harsh handling, 1,281 were stop signs or traffic light violations. We had 3,216 speeding violations, and then 1,666 for following distance. Our green zone score for a fleet is 911. We have a set green zone of 850. We want all of our drivers to try to hit an 850 go. So as of right now, as a fleet, we're doing better than our 850 go at 911. The drivers with the highest scores, when we first put this system in place, our senior drivers, really were unhappy about the scoring. They were afraid that we were going to use this to take away their performance bonus. The guys that were the most worried about it are scoring anywhere from 1,000 to 1,050 points a day. They're actually in competition with one another, and if you're below the 850, they're going to let you have it because they have an app on their phone and they can see what everybody's score is. So they really like to push each other to try to do better. So what we do with these scores here, we will focus on the drivers with the lowest score. We try to focus on the bottom 10%. That's where we think we're going to get the biggest bang for our buck. And so far, this has been very beneficial for us. We've seen a huge improvement over the last 5 years. So what do we end up doing with all this information? So what we want to do is we want to coach our drivers. We want to help them be better. Human beings, depending on the choices that we make every single day while we're driving, we are inadvertently training ourselves. If we always pull it to a stop sign and we do a rolling stop, if we don't do a complete stop, every single time we come up to a stop sign, even in a no crap situation, we're going to roll past the stop sign. When you approach a traffic light and it's green, it's a still green light, are you approaching that traffic light as if you were going to have to stop, or are you going to take a chance and try to beat that traffic light? So we take all this information, we sit down with the drivers that we're having repeated issues with, we give them remedial online training, and if it's severe enough, we put them through defensive driving course such as the Smith system. Good thing we like about the system that we selected is that it has a driver app. So we hire our drivers because they're really good at what they do. And we want to give them the opportunity to take the wheel in improvement themselves. Instead of Jesus take the wheel, it's driver take the wheel. We want you to look at your scores. We want to focus on, we want you to focus on this, and we want you to make yourself better. That way, we're not constantly hounding these drivers. We're trying to take a positive approach to these things. And like I was telling about our top drivers, they've really went far with it. The company that we utilize told us that we have some of the highest scores of any of their customers nationwide. So along with the driver alerts and all the bad driving habits that we get alerted to, there's also such thing as a driver star where a driver can earn points. So currently, M&M Cartage 2% above our cohorts with earning driver stars. Driver stars is going to be when a driver creates space. So a car or another truck comes into our line of travel, our driver lets off of the accelerator, creates space, they get a driver star. They're driving down the interstate and they see an emergency vehicle or another car sitting on the side of the road. They make a proper lane change to the left to create space. They get another driver star. Down here at the bottom, it shows you that a safe following distance, when a driver maintains an average following distance of at least 3.6 seconds for a total of 1,500 monitored minutes, they get a driver star streak. That driver star streak is going to give them an additional 100 points over the next 7 days on their driver score. Stop signs, when a driver stops at a stop sign for 75 consecutive stop signs, they'll get a driver star streak, again, increasing their driver score. Let's take a good look at an example of one of our drivers creating space. As you can see, our driver was running 68 miles an hour until the truck come over and he let off the accelerator and he slowed down to 60 miles an hour. He created that space and earned himself a driver star. So on the driver app, once a driver reaches so many driver stars and they get a streak, they will actually get an alert. And when they look at the alert, it has a little animated video telling them good job. Green Zone Benchmark Report. These systems, the technology that these systems have is amazing. There's so many things we can do, so many reports that we can look at, things that we can analyze. This here is giving us a really good view of how our drivers have increased. If you look at the red and the green over there, you can see how we've kind of went up and down. Down here at the bottom on this side, it says scored above 850, less driving time, scored above 850, more driving time. Scored below 850, less driving time is only 5% of the fleet. So how do we actually measure our success with what we've got in place? With our safety compliance here, it says that M&M Cartage speeding compliance is 99.6%. That's over the entire time that we've had the system. We've been at 99.6%. Yes, we've had 1,143 hours in violation, but we've had over 79 million analyzed minutes. Cohort speeding compliance is also at 99.6, so that's right in line. Stop sign compliance, we're at 97.8%. Our cohorts are at 95.4, putting us at 2.4% above. So green zones, and our green zone and severe risk, if you look over here to the left in June of 2021, you'll see that our green zone score was down around 820, but our severe risk per 1,000 monitored minutes was extremely high. If you look over to where we are in April of 25, it's done a complete flip-flop. Our green zone score is elevated and the severe risk has decreased. From June 21 to May of 2025, there were 79 million captured and analyzed minutes. Our green zone score went up 69 points, and our severe risk per 1,000 minutes went down 43%. For every 5-point increase in green zone, there was a 6% reduction in our severe alerts. Measuring driver engagement. So this chart here shows that a 73.9% improvement in severe alerts per driver stars. In June of 21, we had approximately 6.5 severe alerts per driver star. By April of 25, we were down to 1.3 severe alerts per driver star. That is a significant improvement. So our drivers are really taking the information that we're giving them. They're really paying attention to the training and they're making adjustments. So green zone per rolling 24 DOT preventable accidents per million miles. So from June 21 to May of 2025, with the 75 million captured and analyzed minutes, our green zone points went up 69%, and our accidents per million miles dropped 32.7%. And for us, especially in claims and losses, that's pretty significant. So another way that we measure our performance is through our CSA scores. Every single month, I pull our CSA scores. I do a download. I put an email out to the entire company, including all of our driver fleet, explaining where we are on our scores, how we've improved, what issues are we having, what are the current trends. So we're 1% on unsafe driving. We've been between 0 and 1% for over 2 years on unsafe driving. Our crash indicator is down to 11%, and it's been as low as 7%. But how's that changed over the past 5 years? So back in 2019, our crash indicator was as high as 69%. Our unsafe driving was as high as 13%. I've already showed you the 1% and 11% that we are right now. That's a significant difference, and we believe a huge improvement in highway safety. Our last hours of service violation was in June of this year, and that was the first hours of service violation we'd had since August the 3rd of 2023. As far as speeding tickets, I think it's been almost 2.5 years since we've had a speed violation. So annual loss rate and claims per million miles. As you can see, in 2019, our claims per million miles were as high as 2.5. By 2024, they had already dropped down to 1.3. So far, within the last 7 months, we've dropped down to 0.3. It's a huge significant in losses. So every year, we're part of a captive insurance group, and part of that insurance group has us go through a transportation safety assessment every year. That transportation safety assessment is like a DOT audit on steroids, because they're not only looking at hours of service and compliance like that, they're looking at our standard operating procedures, how we document things, what kind of training programs we have in place. Do you have accident avoidance technology? What percent of your equipment has that? Do you use dash cams? What are you doing with the data? In 2017, we did our first TSA as a perspective of client, and we were at an 81%. We were told at that time that that was the highest perspective score of any client in history for Cottingham and Butler. We finally ended up joining in 2019, and we scored an 84. Part of this captive insurance group is we hold each other accountable, is because we share risk with each other. Instead of sharing risk with everybody that has State Farm, we share risk with everybody that has Safe Trucking, and that's only 39 companies. So there's an A fund and a B fund, and we have all this money in this B fund that belongs to everybody in the group. So if somebody has a severe accident, they're doing stuff bad, and they have a large claim, then that's money out of our B fund. You're taking money out of our pocket. When we started with the captive group, everybody in the group had to score above a 75. Each year that's increased to where now you have to score above a 90% as a group. In 2024, we received 2 safety awards for having the highest TSA scores in the captive group. In February this year, we received 3 more safety awards for having the highest scores, and we're on track to receive more even in February of 2026. So implementing change, basically everything that we've done is try to improve highway safety, improve our drivers' scores, help them to be better drivers, do what we hired them to do, hopefully come home safely the way they left each day. And to do that, we had to have leadership commitment. The owners of the company had to make an investment. If there's any other industry people in the audience today and you don't have dash cams, you're really doing yourself a disservice. They're not that much money in the grand scheme of things. I mean, we have 300 trucks, and if you pay $500 per device, that's $150,000 approximately, and we pay $45 a month service fee for each of those. You know, less than $200,000 investment in the first year. The very first accident that I showed you, that had the potential to be a policy limit claim. The system pays for itself multiple times a year. Investing in these devices is paramount. Using the other technology, make sure that whatever system you go with, make sure that it has some kind of a driver scorecard. and learn, figure out what you're gonna do with that driver scorecard. Reach out to your peers. What are they doing? What systems do they have? How are they utilizing the data? What are, what kind of training programs are they putting in place, and what kind of success that they've had? So one thing I like about this coalition, this whole coalition thing is, it takes a village to survive, and we've all got to work together. I had no formal training when I come in the office. I was a truck driver. We have been successful, but it's because of people in the trucking association that was doing the same job that I was coming into office to do, that sat down with me and helped guide me in the right place. It's working with FMCSA, it's working with Kentucky Motor Vehicle Enforcement. I've learned a lot from the guys and gals on the C-Vision ITD team that I've been lucky enough to be a part of since 2017. All of that has been good training, but it's all about being that, working together for the good of all. So you've got your leadership commitment. They've invested the money. You've integrated the in-cab technology, and now you've got to get the employee engagement. We have changed our safety bonus program from once annually to monthly. We've actually increased it to $1 an hour for every hour logged for the entire month. That's their bonus. If you do something bad and you lose your bonus, you're only losing it for a month. You're not losing it for the whole year. So, at least that's an incentive to try to do better the next month. We analyze the data actually daily. Somebody is looking at this data every single day. And of course, these systems, they send us email alerts. I've even got an app on my phone that if there's a severe alert or a potential collision, my phone will vibrate, my smartwatch will vibrate, and then I can pull it up and see what's going on, reach out to the driver. Clear objectives. Once you get the data, you analyze it, you need to set clear objectives, goals. What are your current trends? What are you gonna do to try to resolve those current trends? And train, monthly, annually. It's always some kind of training. When you sit down with a driver, we're always trying to have a positive conversation, trying to get them to see the positive side of things and not take offense to the fact that we're having to correct them. And then it's always strive for continuous improvement. So I did not come up with this. I'm sure everybody's heard this once before, but a wise man once said, always strive for perfection so that someday you may achieve excellence. So that's it for me. Does anybody have any questions about anything? I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time. I'm hard hearing. I just turned 55 Monday, so I'm old.
But you had said that you had 7,900 alerts that showed up on there. Are each of those investigated by somebody, or is some of that handled through AI?
So when we get those alerts, depending on if they're moderate or severe, if they're severe, we're going to investigate them internally. So the safety team, we have a safety email group set up, and those alerts come out to the whole safety team. And even while I was sitting here, I was getting notifications from my team that they had addressed a situation, that they got an alert and they'd addressed that situation. They'll go back and they'll pull this video, all these video alerts, they're already in the system when we log into the system. Once it's generated, we can go in and we can watch the video and see what's going on, and see if it's something that needs to be addressed or not. Technology is great, but it's not perfect. They do have flaws, even with collision mitigation. We've had issues where collision mitigation was causing problems. It's, you're going to have those instances. So before we call a driver, number one, we don't want to call them while they're driving. Luckily, we have a new system, ELD system, that allows us to send them a message that it will actually read it to them and actually sound like a human being and not a robot. And it will tell them, hey, when you get stopped, please give us a call.
And one other question, you mentioned you had a 5-mile-an-hour limit for your speed limiting where you get the notifications from there. Is that 5 miles an hour over the speed limit instantaneous, or do they have to maintain it for 15 to 30 seconds before it's an alert?
Usually it's 5 miles an hour more for like 10 seconds or greater. And the reason why we even originally Originally, our thoughts were, why allow them anything over the posted speed limit? And then when we got to sitting down and having conversations, is you can build 100 trucks on the same assembly line. They can have the same size tires, the same gear ratio, the same transmission, and the same motor, and they are gonna have somewhat of a variance in speed. We get tons of videos, alerts on speed. If we did it posted speed limit, there's no way we could keep up with it because of that variance. So we would probably see millions and millions of speeding alerts. Any other question?
Yes, just curious, do you have like a coaching cadence, like a scheduled coaching appointment for your drivers, or is it just as an intervention?
Well, we do remedial training every single month. I say remedial, excuse me. We do online training every single month. That's just something that we do. There is going to be a flavor of the month, so to speak, or a current trend, and we are going to schedule that training. And then if somebody ends up being a problem child, so to speak, they get additional training. And depending on the severity of whatever issue they have going on, we'll put them through a Smith System class again. And with the Smith System class, it is 5 hours in the classroom, and then they have to go out with a trained driver trainer, and they have to do the in-cab narrative portion, and they have to get checked off on that before they're released to go back out in the truck. We chose not to use inward-facing cameras, for the privacy of the drivers originally, and, kind of wanted to do a form of a soft rollout so they would try to take it a little bit better. There's certain things that you can see or pick up on when you're watching these videos. If you see somebody weaving in and out of a lane, drifting from line to line, they're probably distracted or they're fatigued, one of the two. Anybody that's ever involved in a no crap situation, if they've got their phone laying on their lap or in their hand and they've got it out of the view of the camera and something happens, I assure you they will bring that hand forward to grab the steering wheel. And when they do, we see the phone in their hand. When that happens, or if a driver gets pulled over for having an electronic device in their hand or a seatbelt violation, they now go on a 6-month probation using an inward-facing camera. If you're involved in an accident that we perceive as being preventable, then you also go on probation using an inward-facing camera for 6 months. If you elect not to do that probation for 6 months, we wish you well with whatever company you decide to go work for.
Yes, first of all, congratulations to you and your team for implementing the change that's made such a huge change in your safety program. A couple quick questions, and you may have touched on that. For the hours of service violations, does the system that you use, is it incorporated to work with your fleet management system and your ELD? So it's not, in other words, it's not just looking at roadside violations that's found. And then the second question that I have is as far as with cohorts, I'm assuming the system is getting that information from using all of the inspection information. It's then getting the SMS scores, and then it's only for companies that are in your peer group. So like, for example, it's looking at unsafe driving basic. Does it tell you how many other companies are in your cohort?
That it does not. I've never asked them if they were able to give me that information or not. And the one screen that I showed on the dashboard, we can go in and basically it's not just a set group. It's that we go in and we start selecting who we are, how many trucks we have, how many drivers do we have, do we work, how many miles do we run? And it compares us to other companies in their system that have their system that are in that criteria. As far as the hours of service, so our ELD and our camera system are all linked together through our transportation management system, which is McLeod. So we use McLeod, Netrodyne, and we just changed to Isaac Instruments for an ELD. Oh my God, it's been life-saving. We were with a legacy system from 2004 to 2024, and it was nothing but a nightmare because they had connectability issues. Me and my 3 assistants spent 90% of our lives 7 days a week 3 o'clock in the morning receiving phone calls because driver doesn't have hours of service because they forgot to log out. Well, they didn't log it. It's not that they forgot. It's that when they went to the G5 system, and we're so close to the airport, there's like a limited G5 service. It's something to do with the cell tower, with the control tower, interruptions. The system, had a 60-minute sleep mode and a 120 coma mode, and it would never communicate the update that the driver made before it went into coma mode. So the driver comes in the next day and he has no hours of service. So now we got to get up. We got to help walk them through because I don't care how much you train them, they want you to do it for them, and we won't do it. We'll walk you through it. But we spent 90% of our life doing that, and we couldn't focus on driver scores. Once we switched over to a system like Isaac Instruments, we literally, all 4 of us, spend a total combined 30 minutes a day dealing with hours of service violations, and that is it. And it's not just hours of service, it's automated workflow. Our drivers, they do their arrivals and departures and loaded calls and all that automatically through the system. So getting the right systems in place, everything being linked together. Our dispatch, they get these emails, if a driver is within 60 minutes of being out of his hours of service, we all get an alert. That way, dispatch can reach out to me and says, hey, what are you doing? I got a driver here. I need you to run to Cincinnati, Ohio and relieve a driver for hours of service. Or I still have my CDL. They'll have somebody take me up and I'll get in a truck and rescue a driver versus having to put them up in a hotel because most of them are day cab drivers. So that answer your question? Any more?
I
Thank you
agree.
for the opportunity and thank you for having me.